Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Choi Min-dong in Seoul. The U.S. State Department says the country has no plans to deploy nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula, shutting down resurging speculation over potential redeployment against North Korean threats. South Korea is hosting its first ever multilateral summit with African nations next week. Leaders from 48 African nations are taking part with hopes of expanding cooperation in business and other key areas. The country saw a rebound in industrial output in April following a sharp fall in recent months. The rebound comes on the back of strong figures in automobile production. The U.S. State Department stressed that it has no plans to redeploy tactical nuclear arms to the Korean Peninsula. The remarks comes after the Kremlin warned that it would consider additional nuclear deterrent steps if the U.S. deploys ground-launched intermediate-range ballistic missiles to the Indo-Pacific. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Amid nuclear threats posed by North Korea, a ranking member of the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee on Wednesday raised the idea of deploying U.S. tactical nuclear weapons to South Korea to increase deterrence against the regime. To this, Republican Senator Roger Wicker proposed a redeployment of U.S. tactical nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula. However, according to U.S. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel on Thursday, the U.S. has no plans to redeploy its tactical nuclear arms on the Korean Peninsula. He emphasized that the U.S. does not see returning nuclear weapons to the Indo-Pacific as necessary. The comments also come as Wicker's proposal was met with a heavy pushback from Moscow. In a recent interview, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned that Moscow may consider additional nuclear deterrent steps if the U.S. deploys IRBMs in the Indo-Pacific region. But the U.S. State Department's spokesperson said Lavrov's comments was Russia engaging in nuclear saber-rattling. Patel also condemned North Korea's ballistic missile launches on Thursday and noted Beijing's role in helping address the security challenge from Pyongyang. He also commented on the North's sending of balloons carrying trash and fecal matter to the South earlier this week, calling the move malign and destabilizing. U.S. tactical nuclear weapons were withdrawn in South Korea in 1991, and the country has since stuck to its non-nuclear status, relying on the U.S.'s security commitment. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden has partially lifted his ban on Ukraine using U.S. weapons for strikes on Russian territory. According to U.S.-based Politico, citing two U.S. officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity, the U.S. president has approved the use of American weapons for strikes inside Russia only for the purpose of defending Kharkiv. The decision comes as Washington faced strong appeals from Kyiv, urging permission for its forces to defend themselves against attacks coming in from Russian territory. However, the U.S. official stressed that the U.S. policy of Ukraine not using U.S.-provided long-range missiles and other weapons for offensive strikes on Russian territory remains unchanged. Just ahead of the first Korea-Africa summit scheduled for next week, President Yoon on Friday is hosting a bilateral summit with the president of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio. President Yoon and President Bio are set to have a small group discussion, hold an MOU signing ceremony, and have lunch at the Yongsan presidential office. The two nations established diplomatic relations in 1962 and had a trade volume of more than $23 million in 2022, with South Korea importing fish and metal materials. Sierra Leone is one of the 4 African countries that has been invited to South Korea for an official visit and summit talks. Now, staying with the South Korea-Africa Summit, which will be the largest multilateral event held by the Yoon administration, our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon tells us what to expect.
48 African nations, among those around 30 heads of state. That's the expected size of the first Korea-Africa Summit hosted by South Korea on June 4th and 5th.
The summit's theme is the future we make together. Making this the grand basis of Korea-Africa cooperation, we will deeply discuss the 3 goals: shared growth, sustainability, and solidarity.
According to the top office on Thursday, the first event-wide engagement will be the dinner banquet on June 3rd, and after the main opening ceremony kicks things off, the leaders will go into discussions. And after the closing ceremony, there will be a joint press conference by President Yoon and African Union Chair and Mauritania's President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani. On the 5th, South Korea's Trade Ministry and Korea's Trade Investment Promotion Agency, or KOTRA, will host a business summit. During this period, there will also be 13 sideline events. South Korea had actually been eyeing this event for a long time, first announcing the plan back in 2022.
교류 협력을 더욱 체계적으로 추진하기 위해 아프리카와의 기존 장관급 포럼을 정상급으로 격상하겠습니다. 이를 위해 2024년 한국에서 한-아프리카 특별 정상회의를 개최하고자 합니다.
The top office emphasized that 60% of the African population is under the age of 25, with a big market and abundant key natural resources, saying it's a must that South Korea enhances exchanges with the continent, adding such a summit has come late.
Considering our country's status in the international community, it seems somewhat late to hold the first summit now. However, the fact that most invited countries have expressed their intention to attend reflects Africa's high expectations for cooperation with South Korea.
The top office named 3 key aims. First, strengthening economic cooperation for co-growth, focusing on sharing South Korea's export expansion experiences. Second, promoting the transformation of industrial and digital infrastructure, focusing on the agro and fishery industries with expanded aid. Lastly, tackling global challenges together, especially through agricultural technology transfer projects. In the meantime, an official says while this is only the first event, so it can't be said for sure, and hosting around 50 nations is no easy task. It'll be the best to make it a regular event every 4 to 5 years, so administrations that follow can host such a summit at least once. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The annual Jeju Forum is currently taking place on South Korea's southernmost island. Leaders of global organizations have gathered to discuss ways to overcome geopolitical risks. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji files this report from Jeju.
An annual peace forum officially kicked off on Thursday on South Korea's southern island of Jeju. One of the key events, the World Leader Session, was held after being suspended for 4 years because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Former and current heads of international organizations have gathered here on Jeju Island to address geopolitical uncertainties as the world faces multiple crises, including ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. Taking part in this year's event was former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and former Japanese Prime Minister Yasuo Fukuda. Ban stressed the need for South Korea to work closely with the United States and other like-minded countries to find ways to monitor North Korea. Noting that the North has been neglecting UN Security Council resolutions, he expressed concerns about the regime's military cooperation with Russia.
We must continue to press the members of the Security Council to extend, to revive the panel of experts on monitoring North Korean nuclear issues. It's shameful that Russia has been supporting continuously until they received some military materials to attack Ukraine.
In March, Russia blocked the annual renewal of a United Nations panel tasked with overseeing international sanctions against North Korea, using its veto power. The move was strongly criticized by Ukraine, the US, France, the UK, and other Western countries, and prompted South Korea and its allies to seek alternatives to keep an eye on the North. Meanwhile, the executive director of the APEC Secretariat, who also took part in the event on Thursday, stressed the importance of middle powers in order to overcome global risks, referring to countries that sit below great powers but still have influence over global politics.
I really feel that there is a role for middle powers in helping us to deal with those issues, whether it's climate change, whether it is the digital issues, whether it's AI, whether it's the energy transition.
There are more than 300 experts taking part in this year's Jeju Forum. It will run until Friday at the Jeju International Convention Center. 배은지, Arirang News, Jeju.
Despite a dramatic decline in industrial output in March, South Korea saw improvement in April, with the latest figures showing an upswing for the auto industry. Retail sales and investments, however, dwindled. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
South Korea's overall industrial production saw a rise in April this year on the back of a boom in auto production, although spending and investments saw a decline. According to Statistics Korea on Friday, industrial production in April rose by 1.1% compared to the previous month. This is a result of increased production in mining, construction and services, with the rebound following an on-month downturn in March when a 2.3% decrease was recorded, the sharpest drop in nearly 4 years. There was also a significant rise in output from the auto industry, which contributed to the increase, tallying up to a rise of 8.1% on month, which is the largest hike recorded since January last year.
Production in the mining industry decreased for semiconductors, but production for automobiles and chemical products increased by 2.2% compared to the previous month.
Semiconductor production showed a decline of more than 4% compared to March, logging 2 straight months of on-month decline. However, the agency explained that this was due to the base effect, with the country's chip industry showing robust recovery at the start of the year, and pointed out that compared to the same month last year, it rose by more than 20%. A spokesperson from Statistics Korea said that although production has generally performed well, consumption of the produced goods has been unable to keep up. Retail sales, a key measure of private spending, showed a 1.2% drop on month, while sales of non-durable goods such as cosmetics and semi-durable goods such as clothes rose. Sales of durable goods such as cars fell. Facility investment also saw a downswing of 0.2% due to a slowdown in the machinery sector. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Candlelight rallies were held by doctors in parts of South Korea on Thursday night to protest the medical school admissions quota increase for next year. Meanwhile, colleges are set to release their detailed admission guidelines today. Our Park Gon-woo has the details.
An estimated of 5,000 doctors gathered in front of Deoksugung Palace in Seoul on Thursday night for a candlelight rally against the admissions quota hike for medical schools in South Korea next year. Under the slogan of a death sentence for the Korea medical system, the Korea Medical Association also held rallies in 5 other parts of the country, including Busan, Daegu, and Daejeon. Lee Myung-taek, the head of the KMA, strongly criticized the government for making decisions unilaterally instead of discussing them with doctors. During the protest, he also hinted at an even bigger fight they would carry out in June. He asked for senior doctors, including practitioners, to join the fight, together with the junior doctors, students, and professors. Contrary to speculations, Im didn't announce a general walkout during the protest. While the medical community strongly criticized the government for ordering doctors to return to work, some doctors appealed to the government to open official lines of communication and persuade them to come back. On Friday as scheduled, medical schools are expected to release the details of their 2025 admission guidelines reflecting the fixed quota announced by the Education Ministry the day before. According to the ministry, there will be a total increase of 1,497 students entering medical schools compared to the year before across 39 colleges nationwide. That adds up to a total of 4,610 medical school places for 2025. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
The 22nd National Assembly kicked off yesterday. On the first day of its term, the ruling party emphasized the need for solidarity, while the opposition vowed to pass the contentious bill turned down by the previous assembly. Our political correspondent, Lee Si-hoo, reports.
The 22nd National Assembly kicked off on Thursday with a fresh makeup of lawmakers. The ruling People Power Party began a 2-day workshop in the city of Cheonan in Chungcheongnam-do province, away from the National Assembly in the capital. President Yoon Suk-yeol visited to show support and encourage conservative lawmakers to work for the people of South Korea.
우리가 한 몸이 돼서 나라를 지키고 나라를 개혁하고 국가의 미래를 위해서 이 나라를 발전시키는 그런 당이 되고 저도 여러분과 한 몸으로 뼈가 빠지게 뛰겠습니다.
The PPP floor leader Chu Kyung-ho said the workshop's main goal is to strengthen solidarity. Chu has had the weight lifted off his shoulders after successfully keeping his PPP representatives from deviating away from the party's stance during the recent parliamentary vote on a contentious bill that aimed to prompt a special investigation into the death of a Marine last year. On Thursday, Chu told the party that they must unite as one to prevent what he described as a flood of legislation from the opposition in the new assembly. Meanwhile, the main opposition Democratic Party, which pushed for the special investigation bill with support from minor parties, both conservative and liberal, initiated its next legislative move. On Thursday, it proposed a modified version of the original bill. The new bill expands the scope of the investigation and allows for greater input from minor opposition parties in the probe team formation process. The party chairman Lee Jae-myung said the DP, together with the people, will ensure the legislation goes through. The party also introduced what it calls a number 1 livelihood bill, which, if enacted, would provide vouchers worth around 250,000 Korean won or $180 to all citizens of South Korea. They say the vouchers to be used at local businesses will boost spending and revive the economy. The 22nd National Assembly retains the previous parliament's small ruling and large opposition status, consisting of 108 PPP and 171 DP lawmakers. A total of 192 seats are taken up by the pan-opposition across parties. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
Classrooms with only chalkboards and textbooks could become a thing of the past. Our Choi Soo-young went to an education fair to check out the learning methodologies of future generations.
The teacher rolls digital dice instead of using chalk. Students use tablet styluses instead of pencils. This is a model classroom showing education methods for future generations at the 2024 Korea Glocal Education Fair in Yeosu, Jeollanam Province. The teacher running the model AI classroom said it is time to prepare for future education that goes beyond the accumulation of knowledge.
When we teach, we prioritize problem-solving skills over mere knowledge memorization. We focus more on this area by creating problem-solving spaces in the metaverse, which brings many positive effects.
Bong, the teacher, said that future education will be based on sharing and communication, unlike traditional passive education where knowledge is simply delivered from a teacher to the student. Students who participated in a history class said they could focus even more and enjoyed learning interactively.
It's definitely more interesting and fun to learn within games on a screen compared to just reading textbooks.
Communicating with the teacher is also more efficient. Instead of just listening to the teacher's lecture from a textbook, we can present together and see the teacher from different angles, making the class more effective.
One of the educational devices company officials participating in the fair spoke about the schools that apply future education systems.
In one middle school and one high school, the system is now in place and working effectively. According to school officials and teachers, using our system has notably reduced fatigue during full-day classes and significantly improved efficiency in sharing lessons and collaborative work among students.
The 2024 Korea Glocal Education Fair will run until June 2nd. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News, Yeosu.
Mentoring is a powerful practice for professional advancement, and here in Korea, behind a number of renowned screen productions is a common mentorship program. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin tells us more.
Occult horror movie Exuma and lighthearted K-drama Extraordinary Attorney Woo might not seem like they have much in common. But they were created by individuals who experienced the magic touch of the creative mentoring program for young professionals. Hosted by the Culture Ministry and organized by the Korea Creative Content Agency, this program is now in its 13th year.
We started this program to give new creative talents one-on-one hands-on training with top industry professionals, helping them take their skills to the next level.
This year, a total of 300 mentees were selected across broadcast, film, music, games, cartoons, performing arts, and other creative fields. They will have the opportunity to learn from some of the best in their field through mentoring sessions and workshops.
I usually work alone on my music, but joining this program will let me get valuable feedback from top-notch mentors. Plus, the financial support means I can focus more on my music without stressing about making a living.
For some, this project has been a life-changing journey. Take Lee Shin-hwa, for example, the screenwriter of the popular 2019 baseball drama Hot Stove Lee.
My mentor was the legendary screenwriter Chung Sung-ju, who wrote Secret Love Affair. He gave me stern but helpful feedback and even treated me to meals. I consider my other mentor the grandfather of Hot Stove League. When I showed him the initial draft, he saw his potential and gave me advice on how to write a good sports drama.
For the mentors, it's an opportunity to discover fresh talent and share their insights.
I believe that technological trends shape how media content evolves, changing the way we direct and tell stories. Right now, it's AI. If the mentees think about how these technologies could influence future content, I am sure they'll create amazing work.
During the selection process, we saw that each applicant's portfolio brought a unique and fresh perspective, even if it wasn't perfect. I'm excited to work with these promising talents and see what we can achieve together.
With a shared passion for creating exceptional content, mentors and mentees will work together until November, aiming to open a bright new chapter in the world of K-content. 송유진, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. First to New York, where former US President Donald Trump has been convicted on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in his criminal hush money trial. The verdict marks the first time a former or serving US president has been convicted of a crime. Donald Trump protested the verdict, saying it was, quote, a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. Meanwhile, Justice Juan Merchan thanked the jurors for their service, saying nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do. The choice is yours. After 2 days of deliberations, the 12-member jury announced its unanimous decision, finding Trump guilty on all 34 counts he faced. Unanimity was required for any verdict to be made. Justice Merchan set Trump's sentencing for July 11th, a few days before the start of the Republican National Convention. 77-year-old Trump will not be jailed ahead of the sentencing, where he faces a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison. In the US, incarceration would not prohibit him from campaigning or taking the presidential office. In Hong Kong, 14 pro-democracy activists were found guilty in a landmark subversion trial on Thursday, marking the largest use so far of a Beijing-imposed national security law. The 14 activists, including former lawmakers Lam Cheuk-ting, Leung Kwok-hung, and Helena Wang, ex-journalist turned campaigner Gwyneth Ho, and ordinary Hong Kong residents who joined the mass protests of 2019, were convicted of a conspiracy to commit subversion. They could face up to life in prison in later sentencing. Meanwhile, 2 defendants, barrister Lawrence Lau and social worker Lee Yue-shun, were acquitted. Those on trial were among the 47 activists arrested 3 years ago on charges of allegedly trying to overthrow the government by organizing an unofficial primary in 2020. The court ruled that this primary would have created a constitutional crisis for Hong Kong. To South Africa now, and Thursday's parliamentary elections, where polls show the country's ruling party, the African National Congress, may lose its majority for the first time since coming to power 30 years ago. So far, ballots from around 43% of the voting districts have been counted, with the ANC at 43%, followed by the Democratic Alliance at 24%. The ANC won 57% of the votes in the 2019 elections, but many blame the party for high levels of unemployment, crime, and corruption in the country. Under South Africa's parliamentary system, if a party fails to achieve more than 50% of the votes, political parties must form coalitions. Nearly 28 million out of the 62 million South Africans registered to vote in this general election, with results expected over the weekend. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The last day of May wraps the month up under sunshine and warmer temperatures. Afternoon highs should go up a couple of degrees higher this afternoon, and those in Gyeongsang-do provinces especially need to brace for high heat that could hover around 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And as the sunshine returns, there will be very strong UV rays beaming down on us nationwide. Daegu and Gyeongju see a high of 29 degrees, Seoul topping out at 26 degrees Celsius. Then there is rain in the forecast tomorrow for central regions and Gyeongsang-Pukdo province. And that rain could start as early as tomorrow at dawn in Gyeongsang-Pukdo, dropping on and off rain, but the rest of the country will start out under cloudy skies before turning sunnier in the afternoon. Rain could continue in eastern regions through Sunday, but most places will have a warm and sunny weekend. Then the first work week of June starts off with summer weather. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have at this hour. Arirang News will be back at 2 p.m. Korea time. Thank you for watching.